Merry meet everyone, I'm Witch Hazel, and our topic of discussion for this video is magical tools for every witch, herbs, spells, crystals, and more. So this is bound to be lots of fun. I hope you stick around until the end. But how I'm going to go through this is, I'm going to talk first about why witches use tools. Remember, I have brought it up several times that I believe this is one of the defining factors between witchcraft and spirituality, that witches use a lot of stuff. So we're going to talk about why. And then next, we're going to talk about my three favorite things, which are crystals, herbs, and spells. And finally, we're going to wrap up with a little discussion about other tools that are available in use, so you will have some additional ideas if you want to look at other things. All right, so first things first, why do witches use tools? This is a very noticeable part of witchcraft. There's always lots of stuff around. I mean, witchcraft and minimalism definitely don't go well together in most cases, although I think I've done a pretty good job myself. And to start off this why do witches use tools, I'm going to lend a little quote from my favorite Wiccan authors from the early neo-pagan movement, 50s, 60s, Janet and Stuart Farrar. If you don't know them, you should. They wrote A Witch's Bible, which is a compilation of multiple other works, mostly written by Stuart Farrar. But I can go into that in more detail in another video. Let me know if you're interested, I will do that. So that quote is, "A ritual tool is a psychological aid to concentration and synchronizing the psychic effort of a group working together." Think about that for a minute. This is an important point that I believe is not really taught anymore. Even when I was starting in witchcraft 20 odd years ago, I remember distinctly every book, every coven, everyone said you need this, that, and the other. You need an athame, you need a besom, you need to do ritual, you need to do spell work, you need to do crystals and herbs. And no one mentioned why this is important. At best, someone might have said you're working with the energies in these things. For example, in the herbs or the crystals, they contain divine energy, earth energy specifically. So you're working with this energy. But I have come to the realization or the understanding that this is only partially true. And I'll go into that in a little bit. So if we think again of this quote, that ritual tools are a psychological aid, what does that mean? That means for many of us coming into witchcraft, we don't have a background in connecting with the divine. We don't have a background in things like meditation or spiritual practice really in any of the larger religions. So our background is typically, I go to church on Sunday, or I did go as a kid, or maybe I went to temple, or we did those routine things, but we didn't really develop a connection to the divine. And because of that, it's very difficult to create a whole new ritual set, basically, and do it while connecting to divine energy. So tools help us do that. Tools give us a physical, tangible thing that we can direct energy through. For example, if I am casting a circle and I use either an athame, a wand, a sword in some cases, this is a thing I can hold in my hand, and I can imagine divine energy coming through me and and down my arm and out through the wand or a thame or whatever I'm using. So this is a point of focus that helps. What the Farrars were saying then about the groups is also, if you are in a coven or working with a group, this is a good way, because the main thing about a coven is you are all working energetically together. You're all raising energy together, projecting it together so that it has a larger impact. And if each individual coven member is distracted and can't maintain, they have a glitchy connection to divine, then that defeats the whole purpose. So by having these tools, these physical and visual reference points, it gives everybody something to focus on, and it helps that process of connecting to divine and sending out energy. This also goes the other way around. Not only are these tools a means of us channeling energy, they are also a means of divine to talk to us, to communicate with us. You will see this very often in divinatory tools. Things like the tarot cards or crystal ball or reading tea leaves, anything like that. It is this focus that we put on the tool which allows, because we have this focus and this intent of I'm going to see something important in this tool, that allows that, again, that divine channel to work and to use what we have in front of us to help us understand the message that we need. We will find ourselves focusing on this shape or that picture, or start to see something in the crystal ball, and all of this we can do without these tools. It's just intuition. It's divine intuition that comes to us. But if we are not used to working with it, then we're going to miss it. We're not going to see it. So just by default, putting our focus into this tool will help the divine to say, hey, look at this. Throw it in our face. Look at this. You need to pay attention to this. So this is why witches use tools. So now that we've got that explained, let me quickly go through 3 of my favorite tools, which happen to be very easy for the new witch to get started with. First, we're going to talk about herbs. And we are talking about herbs because these are the easiest thing to access. Take a look in the kitchen, in the cupboard, at your spice rack, and your teas, and all of that. Those are herbs. So you have access to herbs. And the good thing about, or the important thing to know about herbs, is they connect with earth energy. They are a representation of that living, breathing, divine entity, which is the plant, the plants around us. The plants around us have a very unique and special connection to the earth, to the divine. They don't have this intermediary ego issue that human beings do. They can just be and know that they are powerful. And these herbs are powerful. We see it in our entire history of medicine. So this is another reason herbs are a good one to start with. If you are interested in getting more in touch with the natural world through building health through your herbs, you can start off with things like teas, or using different spices in your foods, using different herbs in your baking. It's a very easy way to get started, and a very easy way to incorporate aspects of the divine into your everyday. And then, of course, you can also use herbs in your spell work, but we'll talk about spell work in a minute. All right, so my second item, which I believe is absolutely wonderful to start with and relatively easy to find, and that is crystals. Crystals, again, are going to connect you very, very well to earth energy because they come out of the earth. They are part of the earth. And crystals, fun fact, have a very similar development beneath the earth to human and other plant and animal development, if you bring it right back down to the very first cellular division kind of multiplying aspect of life, that is exactly how crystals form. So we can connect to them on that level. Again, different crystals are going to have associations with different types of energy. That makes them good to use for spell work and for protection and for little things around the house. Or again, when you want to focus on a certain thing like love or healing or protection, detoxing, anything like that, different crystals will have different associations. So that is the reason that I love crystals. And as to availability, you may think it's a bit hard if you do not have a metaphysical shop nearby, but there are alternatives. If you have a museum of nature and science or a museum of natural history anywhere nearby, they have crystals. They may not associate them with any sort of metaphysical properties, but they have them, and possibly at a better price anyway than a metaphysical shop. You could just go and see what you have locally around you. It may not be the prettiest rock or crystal, but it still has the same earth energy, and you can use any pretty rocks that you pick up. I have tons of them from my nieces coming to visit. You can use those in your magical work. All right, so those are my favorite items, and then my third one is going to be spells, spell work. And this one I have as a slightly different tool because spell work, in my mind, kind of combines multiple different things. It's kind of like creating a cake instead of just having the individual ingredients. So for example, I can work with herbs, I can work with crystals, perfectly fine. If I put together a spell, I can bring in herbs into that spell, I can bring in crystals into that spell, I can add in incantations, I can add in elements of ritual, I can add in candles, I can add in whatever I want to create this finished product of a spell. So that is the wonderful thing about spells, is sometimes you only need one quick highlight where you can grab a crystal or an herb. Sometimes you want to do something a little bit more in depth and you want to mix and match, or you want to add in multiple elements. So you can maybe choose a crystal for whatever earth element you're working with, and then maybe you want something associated with an air element. Well, there might be a plant or an herb that you can use that has an association with the air or the water. You can add that in. So spells are an absolutely wonderful tool for mixing and matching and creating something more complex than the simples of candles, crystals, herbs, etc., etc. All right, so I know that was kind of a quick overview of just a few tools, but what I really wanted to get through to you is that it's important why witches use tools, and I just wanted to kind of get the tip of the iceberg out there for you, but I also wanted to let you know that there are so many more options once you start working with tools. And they are a wonderful way to get started with your spiritual work. You can have all manner of tools. And I spoke about some specific kind of ingredient tools, the herbs and the crystals. But then you also have altar tools. I alluded to those earlier. Your athame, your besom, your wand, you usually have candles on the altar. There is the altar itself is a tool. You have rituals. Those are tools in your craft. We have divination, tarot cards, oracle cards. You don't even need cards. You can have a crystal ball. You can read the tea leaves. You can read the coffee grounds. There are endless tools that you can use as a witch. All of them serve the same purpose, which is to provide you a focus for your divine energy. Ideally, now this is the part that gets lost over time, but ideally, you would work to decrease the number of tools that you use over time. Of course, if you do not want to decrease your tools, you don't have to, but the idea is to at least experiment with decreasing them so that you can see for yourself, you can prove to yourself that they are not specifically needed. The ideal, in my mind, is to get to that spiritual side where you know, no matter where you are, what you're doing, you can create a successful spell or manifestation based solely on you as the tool. That is the goal in my mind. So that is what I'm going to ask you to experiment with. If you're brand new to witchcraft, go ahead and use the tools. Practice all the tools. They are so much fun. Use them. They will help you get to a higher spiritual level. If you are already comfortable with many of the tools, if you use everything and anything, start to wean yourself off of them temporarily. If you really like them, you don't have to say goodbye forever, but start to show yourself that these are serving a purpose, but I am kind of beyond that purpose now, and I can still work without them. So that is all I wanted to chat with you about today. Please do remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because I have many more videos coming that delve into both the spiritual aspect of witchcraft and getting beyond the tools, as well as reviewing and going over the more traditional aspects and tools of the witch. So I hope you will join me for that. I'm looking forward to it. It's bound to be a lot of fun. And until the next time, everyone, blessed be.